A note for all those who are not particularly fond of the Austin Powers films. While the spy genre on a whole was responsible for those films, You Only Live Twice was one of the dominant influences. The iconography, the over-the-top schemes, the rampant misogyny, all of that is present and accounted for right here. It's a blessing that this film was incredibly entertaining for its action and highly audacious humor because, by God, this film did not age well when it came to the character interplay. Suffice to say, people who don't like James Bond for his sexist and even racist overtones, this movie gives them some damning ammunition. I can't say I blame them either. Literally, there are whole scenes where Bond laments that in order to maintain his cover as a Japanese fisherman, yeah, you heard me right, Bond has to marry a woman who has, and I quote, a face like a pig. Afterwards, when Bond sees her, he pretty much proceeds to try and nail her. This is one of the many moments that, as time has progressed, has become increasingly uncomfortable. And, while it's all for the sake of going undercover, the montage where Tanaka makes Bond look Japanese doesn't alleviate the awkwardness. Combine that with scenes where Bond and Tanaka are getting sponge baths while extolling masculine supremacy, yeah, you can see why this one fell so low on this countdown. A feeble defense has been made that Japanese customs were different back then, but here's the thing. The whole movie goes overboard on virtually everything, and in the end it wasn't written by someone who has any concept of subtlety. In fact, it's written by a guy who drops children into furnaces, nearly drowns them in chocolate, and turns them blue and expands them to the point of nearly exploding. Yep, Roald Dahl wrote this film, and his penchant for exaggeration is on full display here. Many times it works, but that's more due to the efforts of the actors and the director. In the end, it's safe to say that this is probably going to slide down on many worst to best lists in the years to come as the world changes around it, so sorry Mr. Dahl. Despite your best efforts, there is no way the term sexiful is ever going to find its way into the Oxford English Dictionary. Now that that's out of the way, why is it higher than some of the others? Because, like I said earlier, there are a lot of over-the-top moments that do work in this movie, and it usually involves the core story. It actually does a good job as a portrait of the political climate during the Cold War and how delicate relations were between America and Russia, particularly because of the space race and how both were trying to one-up each other. It came to the point where if there was any indication of interference from both sides, it would quickly be construed as an act of all-out war. While Spectre's scheme is ridiculous in concept and even in execution, the endgame is actually really brilliant. And that's not the only thing that works here. Up to this point, all we've known about the leader of Spectre is that he's ruthless, intolerant of failure, and that he has a cat fetish. Alas, we've never really known who he was up till this point. And even though we don't really know who Ernst Stavro Blofeld is, the big reveal still feels momentous. And a lot of it has to do with Donald Pleasance. His stoic line delivery combined with his seemingly disaffected demeanor provides us with a villain who is evidently unfazed in the face of committing mass genocide. Though Blofeld is a puppet master villain, what elevates him from such a generalization is his willingness to dirty his own hands. He has no problem pulling the trigger on a lackluster underling, or even dumping another one into a piranha tank. Blofeld may have been a lingering presence in many of the prior films, but it was here that the character became a trend-setting villain, one to which many other villains would emulate. Another point that should definitely be praised on this movie is the size and the scale of its production, which, up till now, had never been attempted. So colossal was this production that studio space actually had to be constructed to accommodate it. This was one of the productions that necessitated the expansion of Pinewood Studios, and when you see that volcano lair set, you don't need to question it. This was ambitious filmmaking on a scale that no one thought possible, and credit is definitely due to the ambition of the production crew. On a related note, love has to go to the camera work in this film. The cinematography is utterly awe-striking, in particular the aerial photography. It's a point of fact that John Jordan was something of a maverick cameraman who was fearless in his pursuit of getting the perfect shots. During the Little Nelly sequence, he actually lost his foot when an updraft pushed one of the stunt copters too close to his foot. So when he declared that he poured blood, sweat, and tears into the project, you believed him. You Only Live Twice is archaic in its character interplay, and its plot points are definitely not going to be the paragon of positive representation of other cultures, but it cannot be denied that as a technical achievement, it's a milestone of filmmaking, and it did blaze a trail for other ambitious filmmakers to come.